arrangements
What other
here.
ways did you improve? Go on.
Oh no, yeah. If we had clients all over the world, and so sometimes we needed to send a factory employee out to do a fix to furniture, and so if that happened, I had to fly them out on the cheapest flight possible, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I would be told. I want them to fly out cheap, and so, but personally for me, I had to get creative with that because I didn't want to fly them out cheap with like 15 stops, So, I would do my best to accommodate by getting creative with the flight and figuring out like a decent time to fly out with the most minimal amount of stops possible because I know they wanted to do it really cheap, but sometimes doing it cheap also means it's more time consuming. If
Exactly.
yeah, so if you're going to fly them out and you want them to do 3 stops, that's like maybe more than a day's worth of travel. That's a waste of time. You want them to get there soon, do what they need to do, and then come back. So I had to get creative with that too. So I don't know. I just needed to mention that. So that was my one challenge
No,
right there.
that's a good point because you save time that way.
Yeah, and I wanted to make it comfortable for the factory employee because sometimes the person chosen to do the travel is someone who doesn't always fly. So, and if you don't fly often, you might get nervous about it. So, and if it means you have to get on 3 different planes, that's really uncomfortable, right? So,
It
I
is.
wanted to be
Yeah.
mindful for them too.
That's a great point because not only did you save time for the company, but you also kept the employee in mind and made sure that they had a pleasant experience.
Yes.
Okay. Did you improve any existing policies?
Yeah, actually. Uh, we have we had one huge client. I can't say who, but it's a multi-million dollar, well, it's a billion-dollar company. They're a hotel chain all over Vegas and all over the world. And so we had one project manager working with them, and it was a project that was they were renovating the furniture in stages in their hotel, but because the people in charge of the financials for the hotel didn't want to overspend. They wanted to make sure that the people involved in planning this project were spending in a timely manner and that all the goods were being produced in a timely manner. So we
Mhm.
had to meet our goals. We had to every few months, if we had to we had to make our goal by that month, every few months for the client. And if we missed our goal, it would greatly impact our relationship with them. It would greatly impact the project. So it got to a point where between the project manager and the client, there was miscommunication going on. And the client, this was a multi-million dollar contract for us. The client was ready to
Mhm.
leave, and we had already started producing furniture for them. And if they were going to leave, that meant we were going to be suffering because we're going to be left
Yeah.
with all this furniture. And what do we do? So the operations manager asked me to go through the project and create a spreadsheet and track everything. And that meant creating a spreadsheet with hundreds of lines on it and my god, dozens of columns. The spreadsheet was so big, I needed to print it on a large format printer. I don't know if you
Oh,
know what that is,
wow.
but it was a spreadsheet. When I printed it out, it was like 3 feet long. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
huge. So I needed to keep track of every detail. And I need you to understand, like, if you look at furniture, I needed to keep in track of the handles, the wood stain, the
Okay,
type of
so
the furniture
every
it was.
single aspect.
Yeah, and that meant
Oh,
creating every
wow.
single line and what the client agreed on, what the client chose, what date they chose it, what they rejected, and I found some discrepancies. And I presented it to the operations manager, and he said, "This is no, this is okay. This is ridiculous." And so he asked me to work with the resource librarian, who is the person in charge of all the samples, and I went
Mhm.
through the sample library and found the discrepancies, and I reorganized it and corrected everything. And the operations manager said, "Okay, now you are in charge of the spreadsheet. You are in charge of the samples." And I was like, "Wait, what? This is not my job." And then the client was so impressed that we found some mistakes. They flew me and the operations manager out to Las Vegas, and I had to sit there. And the operations manager told me when we were on our way from the airport to the meeting that I was going to be running the meeting. I didn't wasn't prepared for that.
Wow.
So
That's impressive.
so I only had like maybe 30 minutes to mentally prepare, and I sat down with the client and went through every line item and then pointed out the mistakes and pointed out what it should be corrected to. They signed off on everything and I saved the day. So,
So
yeah.
not only did you retain the client, saved millions of dollars, you also identified the discrepancies and fixed them. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. It was a lot of work and the president was very proud and he approved me to fly out there cuz the client, said whoever did it, they fly them out. We want, like let's talk, let's figure out what's happening. So yeah. And then from then on I was in charge of this part of the project. So anytime the project manager or the client made any changes, I was the only one who could make it on our end, like update our paperwork, update our files. I was the only one in charge of it in the office. So
Because you were tracking
essentially,
everything.
yeah, essentially I started becoming the project manager for the project, but wasn't the official project manager, because, sometimes, miscommunication happens and sometimes it's not everybody's strongest suit, but we needed to save it, and so I was in charge of saving it and keeping it safe.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Can you position anything else that any other issues that you encountered or resolved, or any other processes you improved?
um when it came to shipping samples, the they would just find whatever
Mhm.
boxes or packages they envelopes they could find in the office or in the factory to send out samples. So I said we need to be more consistent with our shipping supplies. So
Mhm.
I contacted, FedEx and UPS and USPS and ordered bulk amounts of shipping supplies and ordered, specific wrapping papers, packaging materials from, office websites and kept a consistent supply so we can consistently mail out stuff in a timely, more effective manner and kept that consistent because it's embarrassing to send out samples in just a reused box. It doesn't make us look professional. So I
It
did that,
doesn't.
and then I was vigilant about, reminding everybody if we're going to send out samples today, you need to notify me by 3 o'clock. That way I can package everything and our FedEx people, our USPS people, or UPS people would show up by like 3:30, 4:40, 3:45 to pick up the packages for delivery. So I needed to train them to be on, time management because, you know, those people aren't going to wait for us to wait for the packages. They're just going to come and
Exactly.
pick up and go. So I needed to train them, and they hated it. My office workers hated it because they didn't like being told what to do like that. But we needed to be effective, because the number one complaint from clients was that they weren't getting their samples in a timely manner. So here I was trying to get us on time, and it greatly improved. We got our samples out to clients in a more timely manner and was more cost effective too because if I got them to send it out with like, ample amount of time, I could save on shipping too because it meant I could ship more cheaply because it used to be before I got there they were shipping everything next day because they were doing everything at the last minute or they missed the shipping window, because the FedEx guy had already come and gone. So,
Makes sense. So you not only reduce the shipping cost, you minimize the delays, and you train these employees to be more effective in their time management. Correct?
yes. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Can you think of anything else to add for this?
Uh no, I don't think so. It was I don't think so.
Oh, shall we?
Well, no, I just remembered something now.
Okay, so
When I
let's move.
first
Okay.
when I first started working for them, I started in October, and um, I noticed that their supplies area, or their
Mm-hmm.
supply, what was supposed to be a supply closet, was disorganized. And I was getting told, "Can you order this? Can you order this? Can you order this?" And I was noticing, wait a second, weeks late, like 2 or 3 weeks later, if I went into the supply area, I noticed that we already had this, or we had that. So one day, over the Thanksgiving weekend, the factory was going to be open, the office would be open, but everybody was taking the day off, and since I just started, I didn't have any vacation time yet, so I asked if I could work in the office, and they said yeah. And so what I did was I reorganized the supplies closet, I reorganized the mail area, I reorganized the paper, everything, so I could see what supplies we did and didn't have. And when I reorganized everything, I found out that we had too much stuff of some things, like too many pens that never get used, or the wrong kind of pens that were being ordered. We had to figure out, like, what file folders we used or didn't use, the paper supply. It made ordering much more easy. It made everything easier to find. So, you know,
And I'm
that way.
sure it cut I'm sure it cut costs as well because you're not ordering multiples of one thing now.
Yeah, or accidentally ordering the wrong things. I could just easily do this, and then every month would just do a monthly order to replenish as needed, and it made it that much easier, because the way they were doing it before, they would only order as needed, and that was the other thing too. That's a waste of money. You're spending money on shipping costs too to order stuff. So if I could just do a monthly order, or a semi-monthly order every other month, it just greatly reduced, orders, and
Cost.
greatly reduced the cost we would spend on orders.
Okay, so you implemented that. You implemented monthly order, supply orders, correct?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Can you think of anything else, or shall we move on?
No, we can move on.
Okay, got it. So let's move on to office services specialist for Capital Group. What were your major accomplishments in this position?
I didn't really have that many. It was just managing that front desk, and um I did have a major accomplishment. I cross trained in the mail room for a little while, and also cross
Mhm.
trained in the no, I forgot the name of the department. Darn. It's our department where we
Did
would
you
go on.
did you ident did you identify the need for this training?
No, because was I don't well, actually, that's a lie. Let me go back. I did improve some stuff. Not like, we have, like, at the front desk, we have these badges for guests. When they check in, we
Mhm.
issue a badge, and that means they can come in and out of the building. It's an office building. It's like, 30 floors, and so they need a key card to
Mhm.
get in and out of the building, and key card to get on the elevator. So when I got there, the key cards were in a disarray. They weren't in any particular order, and so there was no way to really manage the key cards, and when they were being issued, or which ones were deactivated, or when they weren't, how long it was issued for. And so it meant, one day I went through and organized all the key cards by number and bundled them in bundles of 5. And then
Mhm.
we created a spreadsheet where we wrote down every key card number we had assigned to us, and then we would write down when they were issued, and when they should be expected to be returned. Because sometimes the visitors would tell us we're here for a day, or we're here for 5 days. So we would put down a date, then we would remind them, hey, your key card is due at the end of the day when you check out. And we would write down the name of the person it was, given to. And so it helped us greatly keep track of it, because we were able to identify a few missing key cards, and we had to get them deactivated, because we don't want to run a risk of, security. Um, so that was one thing we did. So doing little things like that, updating files and paperwork, just little things like, just making sure all of our binder, like our reference binders, were up to date with information. And so when my manager saw that, and one day in the mailroom when it was the holidays and they needed more help, they asked if I would feel comfortable going upstairs and helping with some of the data entry for the mail room. So I got up there and they trained me to do that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the most impressive thing, but I was able to cross train up there just based on the little things I did for the front desk.
No, actually, the key card thing is impressive because you mitigated a security risk by identifying missing key cards and active key cards that were still missing and anybody could use to get in and out of the building. So that's a good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Can you think of any other issues that you might have solved here, or shall we move on?
We can move on. It was just it was a temporary job, so if that's something to I don't know if that's the other thing. The next few jobs were temporary, so I don't know if we need to list that, how to list that on the CV, because you'll notice based on the timeline, like
What,
some of the jobs are
what
really short.
what I did is actually I funded your Capital Group and American Red Cross under the staffing agency because those were really short term and I don't need to actually expand on those. I can just
Yeah.
give a general overview for those three jobs,
Okay. Thank you.
which would be let's start with your sales accountant representative at Red Cross.
Yeah.
Uh, what were your major accomplishments here?
Oh, okay. So I redid all the flyers for the different type of trainings we offer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I redid the flyers so that way there are these flyers that talk about what the training is, what it involves, and then the cost that we quote. So I created the flyers so in a way that each of us could just input the quote that we're giving that client. So we would, make it unique to that client. And I streamlined all the flyers to make it visually more consistent because what we were doing originally was just creating stuff on the as we needed and then shipping it and then sending it out to the client. And so everybody had their own version of it, but I wanted to make it look more consistent and clean and more professional.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And then the other thing I did was create a binder, a reference binder for everything, about the trainings we offer, about the pricing guidelines that we need to follow, you know, um, resources and links if customers have questions about different products we offer or third party resources. If they had more questions, we could refer them to. Um, that was one thing I did. And then at one point, we had closed down another location for Red Cross. And so they needed people to go over there a couple times a week, every week, to help clean up the office and streamline and help the public if they came in for
Mm-hmm.
questions and needed to buy things or rent stuff. So they trusted me enough to go over to the other location and do the same thing, create the reference binders, go through the files to clean up the system because their file system was a mess. They did a lot of hard copy, but not enough digital copy. So we had to start from scratch and then figure out like inventory, what we had and didn't have. And we found out that this location had too much old inventory, outdated inventory. So we had to figure out how to update the inventory with the budget we had and, figure out how much we needed of what and how to get rid of the old inventory. So things like that. And
Okay,
then
got
working
it.
with clients, we used Salesforce and Salesforce. We would run reports and it would tell us, when people were due for renewals, and so it meant calling clients, offering our services, giving them a quote, and checking in with them to see if they were interested in renewing their training with themselves or with their company or with a group. Also, if new clients, potential clients called in, taking the phone call, answering their questions, telling them about the programs we have, the trainings we offer, discussing their budget and what we could do for their budget. scheduling training, working with our trainers to see who was available and when, because some of our regular clients had their specific favorite trainers. So it
Mm-hmm.
meant coordinating with those trainers to see if they were available against the client schedule to see when they were going to be available too. So things like that. And then upselling products. If, if it was like, depending on the type of company that was calling and
Mm-hmm.
asking them, are you, compliant with like CPR or, defibrillator regulations? What do you have? Are you interested in upgrading? Are you interested in buying anything since you're new, or being on top of all of that?
Uh, do you have a number for your sales target? Did you exceed it? Did you meet it?
I
How much did
wasn't
you upsell?
No, I
Mhm.
wasn't given any of those because I was technically a temp that was only supposed to be there for a few months. And I ended up
Okay.
being there for nearly 2 years, as you can see. So I was only supposed to be there just to provide backup for a few months, but they liked me so much and they had money in the budget to keep me on. So they never gave me any, budget to work with or any sales goals. So I just kept doing
Mhm.
what I needed to do and just,
But
they,
you did upsell, right? You
yes.
kept upselling the products and services. And would you say, just as an estimation or guesstimation, that you did meet or exceed sales targets if you don't
I
have a
think I
number?
I know I met them. I know I exceeded them, but I don't know by how much. If we did say that, I would say maybe 15 to 20%, because I
Oh,
wasn't there for that long. But
that's
yeah,
perfect. That's perfect.
yeah. Yeah, and it was based on just trying to improve things in the office too. Like, when I go into an office, I want to know what I'm in for. So I try to clean
Mhm.
up what I can and find everything in Creative Resource Finder and put it all in one place. And notice you know what we need improvement. So it meant like improving the flyers to create more consistency, and that helped the other representatives sell to their clients because it looked nicer, it looked more professional, so it helped them meet their sales goals.
So see, you impacted sales throughout the organization by revamping the flyers.
Yes.
Okay. W- the first point here is that you executed sales team strategies. Can you explain that a bit? What team strategies?
So when I started with them, they were going through a reorganization with the organization. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the Red Cross wanted to step away from doing local Red Crosses. They wanted to be more national, so they wanted to be more consistent nationally. So it
Okay.
meant following their guidelines and implementing it. So it meant that's where the flyers came in. It meant creating a more consistent way of selling ourselves. It creating more consistency with the products we were offering. It meant streamlining the amount of products we were going to offer. It meant streamlining the type of training we would offer, and then only offering these